Imagine an archipelago of over 7,000 islands, rich with diverse cultures, languages and spiritual beliefs, where gods resided in rivers, mountains and forests. Now imagine that same land, centuries later, ringing with church bells, dominated by crosses, and governed in the name of a distant king. How did this transformation happen? How did Christianity become not just a faith, but the backbone of Spanish colonial control in the Philippines for over 300 years? Today, we dive deep into one of the most profound stories of religion and empire. Welcome to Voices from the Colonized, where we uncover the untold histories of colonized nations and amplify the voices that empire tried to silence. If you love learning about history from the perspective of the oppressed, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to support us financially so we can keep creating powerful content, check out the links in the description. The arrival of the cross and the sword. When Ferdinand Magellan landed on the island of Cebu in 1521, he didn't just bring ships and weapons, he brought a priest, a cross, and a mission. For Spain, conquest wasn't just about territory. It was about souls. Christianity became the ideological armor of empire. Magellan's expedition marked the beginning of a spiritual and political conquest that would last for over 3 centuries. After his death at the Battle of Mactan, Spain didn't give up. In 1565, Miguel López de Legazpi established the first permanent Spanish settlement in Cebu. With him came Augustinian friars, the first of many Catholic orders, who would shape Filipino life forever. Conversion as control. Spain understood something powerful. Religion could conquer hearts and minds in ways swords never could. Conversion was not an optional act of faith. It was the foundation of colonial rule. The Spanish crown granted the Catholic Church immense authority in the Philippines. Creating a symbiotic relationship, priests would save souls, and in return, the Church would help maintain political order. The friars, Augustinians, Franciscans, Dominicans, Jesuits were not just religious figures. They were educators, tax collectors, landowners, and sometimes even the local judge. In many villages, the priest held more power than the governor. Christianity was enforced through the reducciones system. Villagers were forced to relocate into settlements centered around a church. This not only made conversion easier, but also facilitated taxation and surveillance. Resistance was met with harsh punishment. In short, faith and force walked hand in hand. Destroying the Old World. Before Spanish rule, the indigenous peoples of the Philippines practiced animism and ancestral worship. Spiritual leaders called babaylan held deep influence, especially women, who often served as healers and mediums. For the Spanish, these traditions were pagan and barbaric. Missionaries waged an all-out war on native culture. Anitos, ancestor statues, were burned. Rituals were banned. Babaylans were persecuted as witches. But why such violence against local spirituality? Because the church understood that to fully dominate, they had to break the indigenous belief system that tied communities together. Yet, resistance persisted. In the mountains and far islands, indigenous practices survived, sometimes blending with Christianity to form unique folk traditions, the economic machine. Behind the faith, Christianity didn't just reshape spirituality, it reshaped economics. The church became one of the largest landowners in the Philippines. Through donations, coercion, and royal grants, friars amassed enormous estates worked by Filipino peasants. The church controlled not only land, but education and morality. Schools taught Catholic doctrine, reinforcing colonial values. Religious festivals, while colorful and communal, often masked deep economic exploitation. Tithes and forced labor funded massive churches and convents. The message was clear: salvation had a price, and so did loyalty to Spain. Resistance and revolts. Despite centuries of domination, Filipinos resisted, sometimes with weapons, sometimes with words. Revolts often had a religious character. The Dagohoy Rebellion, 1744-1829, in Bohol, led by Francisco Dagohoy, began when a priest refused a Christian burial for his brother. It lasted 85 years. Many millenarian movements emerged, blending Christian symbols with anti-colonial hopes. Leaders claimed divine visions, promising liberation from Spain. These revolts showed a paradox. Christianity, while a tool of oppression, also inspired resistance. Stories of justice and liberation from the Bible fueled dreams of freedom. The Church and the Revolution. By the late 19th century, Filipino nationalism surged. Reformists like José Rizal, a devout Catholic yet a sharp critic of friars, exposed the Church's abuses in his novels Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo. The Philippine Revolution, 1896 against Spain, had a complex relationship with the Church. While the institutional Church sided with Spain, many Filipino priests and lay people supported independence. The execution of Gomburza, 3 Filipino priests accused of sedition, became a rallying cry for freedom. When the United States defeated Spain in 1898, ending 333 years of Spanish rule, Christianity remained deeply rooted. But now, American Protestants arrived, launching a new religious dynamic. Legacy of the colonial faith. Today, over 80% of Filipinos are Catholic-owned, of the highest percentages in Asia. Churches dominate the skyline, and fiestas remain central to community life. Christianity, introduced as a tool of empire, became part of Filipino identity. But this legacy is double-edged. On one hand, it fostered unity and education. On the other, it entrenched social hierarchies and weakened indigenous traditions. The question lingers: was Christianity in the Philippines a blessing, a curse, or both? Conclusion: the story of Christianity and colonial rule in the Philippines is a story of faith and power, resilience and erasure. It reminds us how religion can liberate hearts, yet chain societies, depending on who holds the cross and why. Thank you for watching Voices from the Colonized, where we uncover the truths empire tried to bury. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe. It helps us grow and continue this mission. And if you want to support our work financially, you'll find the links in the description. Every contribution helps us bring more stories to light.